Welcome to the Malta Chamber podcast. This is the third episode in our special 6 series of one of today's biggest threats to businesses, scams and fraud. The Malta Chamber, together with BOV, have embarked on this series where we're uncovering tactics that scammers use to infiltrate companies of all sizes, companies that are local as well. From fake invoices, to phishing emails, to cyber attacks, all this can happen to your business if you don't look for them. That's why we're here to shed light, to inform you, to update you of what is happening, to show you how you can prevent it and what are the strategies that you need to put in place so that your business will not fall for these tactics. In the previous 2 episodes, we examined cases of how businesses got scammed via their phones, their emails, their website, their WhatsApp groups and other apps that exist. Today, we will continue to delve deeper on how this happened, what can be done as well with experts that I have today with me. And the program is going to be divided into 2 parts. First, we're going to see the scale of how big the situation is in our country, and then we'll also zoom in on internal fraud that happens within an organization itself. And to do this with me today, I have 3 experts. We have Caruana, BOV Group Chief Anti-Financial Crime Officer, Police Inspector Clive Brimmer in charge of online fraud, and Elena Dourou, BOV Group Chief Internal Audit. I'm actually a bit scared to do this podcast because I have all eyes on me, as they say. First of all, thank you very much for accepting to be on this podcast. I will start with you, Inspector. As I said, the previous 2 episodes, the first and the second, we focused a lot on scams coming from your phone or coming from your email or fake invoicing, etc., but all related to online fraud. So just for the benefit of those, it's coming from outside your organization. You're being attacked from someone outside. Could you maybe share some insights and also statistics on this issue and explain to us what are the causes that you're seeing and the trends?
First of all, thank you for this invitation and to shed light of the huge problem that the Maltese people or whoever lives in Malta is facing nowadays. The problem is huge when I'm saying the huge because we are seeing and observing the numbers are increasing and huge spike, especially during the COVID, during the even because of the evolving of the technology. So, of course, there is a huge opportunity for the scammer, for the perpetrator, from those people who are behind the scams, to take this opportunity and to get us all relevant, which whether you are a lonely person or a lone person, a civilian, or a big or huge organization, that will be easy to fall prey for these typical scams. When we are dealing with fraud scams, especially we are dealing with those which are, you need the internet to fall for these scams. So we call them cyber-enabled crimes, actually, because there's the fraud, but with the help or with the need of the technology connected with the internet, and the fraud is happening. And actually it's happening constantly. Every day we, as a police, we have average of about 10 or 15 reports every day.
Every day?
Every day, yes. Of course, they diverse of the impact because started from 10 euros and like businesses which you are representing fall for scams over 100,000, 500,000 at one go, we are saying. So the problem is huge and everyone sees it's his own problem as such, and every case you need to take it on its merit and even with regards its investigations. So typically, to give you overview of the fraud which are typically overseen by my office are the investment fraud schemes, Romans fraud schemes, the business email compromise, which in the past we used to refer it as CEO fraud. So there is the concept of authority and urgency. So you need to, the scammer knows how to deal with it. He plays with psychological efforts to make the organization fair for that scam, typical scam. And of course, due to social engineering and due to the authority that it's impersonating a CEO, so his boss actually, so he falls for that urgency and make certain payments due according the request being made by the email or SMS being received by the victim. There are, of course, the bank scams, typically which we receive as an SMS phishing. So typically when you press a link and you are diverted to a fake websites, typically like we are here at Bank of Valletta, typically like Bank of Valletta or other commercial banks around Malta. So it's very easy to fall prey for these scams because they are getting more sophisticated. Technology is evolving. We are evolving as well, but the scammer sometimes, not sometimes actually, to speak right, is that truly is that the scammer is always 2 steps
Ahead.
And this is affecting, I'm not saying that we are just the Maltese people which are being affected, it's all EU. So basically when me as a police officer representing the Malta police in these meetings, frequent meetings and sharing information, we see the same trends, patterns as such, like in 2 months time there will be Christmas. So actually 100% the online shopping, you know, a lot of people will be reporting to us to deal with that problem. And then there is the Valentine. So according the situation, according the landscape of the
season we're operating like.
Okay, you can say that.
A few in the previous episodes, I said Ryan had highlighted that there are fraud that actually the fraud that is happening is not age-bound or there are no education background to it, so everyone is falling for this, irrespective of your age, your education background, because the police obviously sees the bigger picture, because we're talking about a national level. Do you confirm or deny his claims?
Of course, I can confirm that because the reports and the numbers, you cannot deny the numbers, the statistics which we gather. And even when you're measuring the patterns and the trends, it is everyone can fall for these typical scams. Everyone. It's irrelevant from where your background, the education, your job, your role in the society, it's irrelevant. We have seen people, the common people in the streets, and we have seen huge companies which are supposed to be, and I know that they have protocols in place and that I know that they have IT department in place, technical people, but still they fall for that. Because we investigate and we are referring, according to your podcast, we are referring to those fraud which are organized sometimes and most often organized by the organized crime groups. But actually, to create the deception, you don't need to be technical. You need to play with your emotions. So people have emotions, irrelevant whether you have all that technical infrastructure. It's good to be in place, especially to huge businesses, to small, medium enterprises. I'm not saying that you don't need to have that things. Of course, you need to be on board. But the problem is when we are dealing with these cyber-enabled crimes because they are dealing with people, human. And human, all of us, irrelevant from where you're coming, everyone has his emotions, everyone has his temperament and the level, and even we need to consider the level of tolerance. So when I am okay and focused, I will be much more resilient and vigilant. But sometimes things happens in your mind, so the level of tolerance will be much more less, and you will.
That's where you fall.
When we are dealing with this, especially business email compromise, and that's it. So it regards the front officers, which they are receiving the request to make payments. So the CEO actually, the managers are not concerned about some, because it's their job to do the payment, but they're playing with the people frontliner because he is impersonating the CEO. So there is the urgency, there is the authority, and there is the trust that it's coming from the high authority. So the frontliners just make the payments.
From your experience, because you mentioned you receive a call of 10 calls a day in relation to scams, different types, obviously, to be fair to you. Obviously, this is a podcast in relation to business. Is there a recent story that you can share with us that sheds light about this situation when it comes to the business community, and maybe a recent one, so that,
Yes,
it's fresh from the oven, as they say?
it's like showing the modus operandi, how they work and did this kind of. Of course, I can give you some numbers to make you to have a picture about the situation. Let's go at least 2 years, in the past 2 years. In 2023, so I'm referring to those which are being reported, because we are noticing as well that businesses, even individuals, are not reporting for various factors. But according to our reports, we have above 67 reports in 2023. And we saw around 5 million funds lost about these typical scams, business email compromise. Where there's something, there is a change or spoof domain, literally similar to the CEO, similar to someone with higher authority in that particular business, giving orders, but there is the scammer to make such payments or change IBAN so that payments will be affected. Let's say in 2024, there was a decrease, there was 56. The impact was around over 3 million, we are saying. And till the second quarter of this year, particularly till May, actually, there was already 32. So, of course, by the end of this year, we are seeking that we will gonna be the same level. We will reach 60, around 60 or 70 business email compromise. And there was already over 2 million to 2 million loss this year. But actually, last week, there was already, it is not recorded within our, but I saw a report, 400,000 lost at one go, being reported to us. And it's quite, the financial impact is quite huge.
Okay. How a lot of people would tell you that scammers, in fact, you yourself said earlier that this is a crime organization. It's a big organization. Is it just our impression, or is it true that fraudsters are abroad? Or do we have them locally as well? Or both?
Lily, you can find it. I through my experience, I have had both. But the majority are, because the crime as such in itself, it's a borderless crime, because you are connected with the internet. They are coming. We are being invaded from all over the world, and even from EU member states. So people living in the EU member states. So it's a borderless crime. But the majority, as I said, it is, there are foreigners, there are organized crime, and I am sure of it because we share intelligence. And we see similar and same typical fraud.
Patterns like?
Same links, same bank accounts being used. I'm not referring to the commercial bank accounts here in Malta, but as such, let's say, I was dealing, because I missed to refer some cases.
Sure, go ahead.
No, I'm not trying to miss it. But the thing is that how it happens is that there is a CEO impersonating CEO or high that, and giving instruction to affect a payment. For sure, 99% there will be a change of IBAN. So I am dealing with Mr. Ryan in a business, I have contract with him, and there was a change of IBAN. And I used to make payments in local bank. Now, due to that change in IBAN, they will be literally outside Malta. In EU, normally in the EU bank account, and then literally being partially like, so that it will be much more difficult for us to investigate, because let's say 100 20,000 being paid to one account, and then literally 20,000 in various and different, and I'm not referring even to the crypto. So we are seeing another change, how they are. So as such, when the money is paid to a bank account, most of it is going to different wallets as well. So making harder for us, the law enforcement, to get the evidence which we require. But to referring to simple particular case, it happened in 2022 because we were still investigating. But the thing is, most of them are quite similar. But let's say it's this one it was public entity, a huge public entity. But the thing is, there was a contract with foreign supplier for over 5 years, and payments arrangements have to be made quarterly. The first payment, it was all good, but the perpetrator was impersonating this company, literally. Very true. It was really good to be betrayed, and the communication was through fake emails, creation of two similar domains, posing as the supplier. The occurrence, it was the receipt of email and just one quarterly payment. The first payment of 2022 was followed by fake invoice and went through UK. Through our investigation, it resulted that the bank account was opened by a fake identity. So there was a theft of identity. In another case, was placed in this typical scam. So it is quite sophisticated and complicated. So that's why we take a long time to investigate and gather information and evidence and preserve it, so that to establish the perpetrator behind these.
From what you're saying, this is a web, I would call it, like a web of people.
Yes.
How effective has the police force been when it comes to localizing these people and obviously arraign them?
Of course, before I have referred that when we used to have a local one, it will be much more easy for us to take the case for prosecution at court. But when we are referring to cases when there are foreigners involved, bank accounts involved, we need to, apart from Europol and Interpol information, informal intelligence between us, because we share a lot of information, and we will have to reply and gather information from them as well. Of course, there is the bureaucracy of the formal procedures, that drafting of mutual legal assistance through our AG, Attorney General, to the foreigner counterparts to gather that and preserve that information, so that then, vice versa, it come to my end to see and investigate what is on the papers. Then we need to make the arrest, and the arrest is not that easy, because we need to issue EAW, European Arrest Warrant. It depends if it is beyond the
EU border.
International Arrest Warrant. So it is quite complicated. These typical crimes are not very successful in terms of prosecutions, because of these difficulties and of these factors. And it requires a lot of time. But when we have EAW and the European Arrest Warrant, the person will be brought to Malta and will be prosecuted as like being Maltese.
My last question to you on this subject is, but if you are saying that there isn't much, because obviously the situation is what it is, the web is so big, there are a lot of complications, why should someone really come to you then and report?
We need, and for the benefit of your viewers, it is time, and we need to consider how much important awareness and education is. So I'm not saying that it's not successful, but it takes time, because it's very complicated. There is fake identities, there is fake invoices, fake card holders, you know what I mean? So it is making us much more difficult in our job. But for sure, like your podcast, and it's good to make reports, and especially the patterns, the trends will be evaluated and shared, and see how the scammers are operating at least. So even when I am speaking with you, so I know the figures. So let's say the companies, the business have the idea what shall be tackled to prevent from the scam happen, actually, to put in place protocols inside jobs, to make training to those, especially when the frontliners, because they are meeting the scammer as such.
Thank you very much for that. Ryan, I turn to you. The second part of this, as I said, is on internal fraud. So this time, your fraudster is there, present inside a company. First of all, explain for the benefit of those why the organization end up being in a vulnerable situation.
Okay, so first of all, thanks for this, and even thanks, Inspector, for giving us yet again very much aligned with the previous highlights that we have highlighted in previous podcasts. So this keeps on highlighting the real risk that us, businesses, people are facing in this time and age. Right, so let's focus on another type of fraud. We're not mentioning any kind of different fraud, we're still speaking on fraud, but this time it's even more challenging. Because as Right suggested, it is with us. So by highlighting that, it is by nature, I would say, much more difficult, because that individual, and I can relate this to what the inspector highlighted earlier, is that there's someone out there, there's someone foreigner, there's someone in Malta, potentially fine, but the challenge is that really and truly does not know our controls, right? Yes. The one that may be related to an internal fraud is even more challenging because, of course, one may know the controls that an organization is putting in order to detect certain fraud. So it's like myself going to my home, trying to open a door without my key. I may know what the defects are in my security to go inside without being detected, right? Or if I forgot a key, I can perhaps have a ladder go into my window and to go inside. So that will be much more difficult. Having said that, yet again, and this is, I know that Elena will even delve deeper into this, that is why there is the correct governance, that is why there is the correct controls. Look at again, controls does not mean that we need to highlight all the controls to all our employees. Right, it is one of the factors that I think nowadays it goes without saying, but yet again, even these family-run businesses, and even this, I would say, businesses that are smaller in size, their employees might even know all the things happening in the organization. And that will increase the risk of certain wrongdoing, fraud, and other highlights, which are connected and really truly focused on financial crime perspective, may be easier or more potential be done rather than others.
So what you're saying is, irrespective of the size, you still need to have checks and balances and control.
Definitely. And again, those controls perhaps not well known by everyone, right? So if and not just give, I would say, tangible examples, right? What I'm speaking, giving your password of your alarm does not mean that you have a company of 50 people and all 50 people need to know the password of your alarm, right? Easily highlighted that to what financial controls and what controls in general you have in the organization to detect internal fraud.
Elena, you're an auditor yourself, so the chief auditor. Give me tangible examples of how businesses have been or could be robbed.
Mm-hmm. First of all, thank you for inviting me. So the internal fraud could be done in any department in an organization. So irrespective of the size, irrespective of how many people are there are frauds reported from departments of operations, department of finance, accounting. There are also from internal auditors in some cases. So these there is no specific sector or even sector as in business sectors, for example, agriculture or manufacturing or construction. Everyone is affected. And irrespective of the number of controls that you implement in a company, there is always the risk of fraud. There are, of course, certain controls that would prevent. One of them is awareness of the staff. So doing training and after implementing governance, as Ryan said, correct governance, the tone from the top should be very important. So if you have an owner or a CEO who sometimes is cheating or making some changes in the financial statements or something, then everybody will think that it is okay to go ahead and do the same thing in one case or another. But if the tone from the top is there is no tolerance in fraud, then this goes down to the rest of the organization.
So leading by example, you're saying.
Of course. There is segregation of duties that can be implemented. If you automate as much as possible your processes, if you do not have, if you try to get away with paper so that you don't have paper.
But what are the red flags here that the businesses should look for?
The red flags, then we go to the typical red flags of identifying a fraudster. That Clive could help, but I guess that we could say change in a lifestyle. If someone is having financial problems, going through a divorce, or insisting on a pay raise, or we see he or she can make...
We will be clear, not everyone who's going through separation or divorce
No, of course
is it. So what we're saying is changing of lifestyle of that person could be one
an
of
indication.
an indication.
Yes. There is, in fraud, there is the fraud triangle. The first part is to have the need. So if there is a need, I have a need and I'm going to look for ways to satisfy this need. The second part of the triangle is the opportunity. If the organization is giving you the opportunity with lack of controls or giving you excessive access rights because I don't want to hire additional people, so I give you access rights to do everything, or I give you, I don't know, the trust sometimes, especially with family businesses in Malta. So giving key persons a lot of trust sometimes creates this opportunity to be able, when you are in need, and if the need arises, to go ahead. The third one is the rationalization. So when I do it, then I say, okay, first of all, I deserve it because my salary is not enough, they should have paid me better, or I will return the funds at a certain point, which then you see that you don't need to do because no one identified anything. And so that's the fraud triangle. It's typical in most cases.
And if I may even continue on this, because this is a proven theory, right? So what Elena is highlighting, it's a proven theory. Perhaps the first and the third one, these are the emotions that the inspector highlighted earlier. The second one, which Elena mentioned, the opportunity, right? I can easily connect this to what you asked me previously. So, but what are that? What we need to do? And this I can link the opportunity with the need to know. Right? We mentioned family-run businesses, we mentioned smaller business, even at times, even larger businesses, right? And let's give some tangible examples of internal fraud connected with what the inspector and Dr. highlighted with this. I would say, not just makes sense, it's been there for ages, this theory, and in every internal fraud case, right, at least internally, even ourselves and perhaps even the police, these three exist.
Coexist together.
It's there, definitely. We cannot miss one of them. So, but with the opportunity and organization, they cannot work. They cannot impact the first and the third one because those are the emotion of the peoples, right? Having some issues in your life, the organization cannot impact it, right? Having the need, why I need to do it, that is something I think or she thinks. But the opportunities is where the organization should really have a controls around them. Let's give some, yet again, simple yet effective related to internet fraud. Why I should give my internet key or my
password.
My password, not even password, I give access to, I would say proper access to people that don't really need to have access to my bank accounts. Right? If I have a small department of finance or one or two, that should be enough.
So you're saying this exists?
This exists. People may say, but if she's on sick leave, but she's on leave, but if I really need to make an urgent payment, Elena may know, or Ryan may know. But this is not the right governance. This is you are creating the opportunity. So if that Ryan oneself will start thinking differently, I know the password, I know, I have access, proper access. I'm not saying I steal, I have stole something from Elena or something like that. I have the access, so I might use it one day. This is where then it might start being difficult, because if I'm doing payments regularly, normal payments, and then I might start stealing something, at times it will not be easy to detect.
But let me ask you
So
this
they need
question,
to know.
and I want also Elena's view on this. But businesses have processes in place. They hire people to do certain things. Yet again, one might tell you, but you're telling me then again to check this person. So why am I hiring her? I can, might as well, I'll do it myself. Why should I micromanage? What would be the answer to
Far
that?
from it, and definitely we are not suggesting for any micromanages, we're not suggesting not to empower people. Of course, people, or not to trust, people are being paid against a job description, so they need to work. But at the end of the day, it does not mean that will give access to everyone and anyone. And yet again, I was going to speak on the need to know. Why I should give information for those that they don't want to know, or they don't have the need to know certain things, right? If I have a normal employee doing these transactions, right, why the whole department should know the access to my bank account? Right, one can make the payroll, so not really and truly really want to go into bank account. Other may need to know that information, right? So this is the need to know that, of course, we're trusting employees, of course, we need to empower them, but that does not really and truly need to give them all the required information exactly as institutions are working. So it's not something that we're saying it's because we're not trusting you, it's because you need to know the information that you need to do your job well.
Yes, what Ryan is referring to is the segregation of duties. So if I have someone who is calculating the payroll and inputting, for example, the bank accounts of the employees, then we have someone else making the payroll. So I understand that the size of the organization might be small, and you have to give this job description might include a number of additional tasks which are difficult
Not
to...
if your organization is as big as BOV.
Exactly. But at least the roles that we put on that job description are not creating synergies which could lead to fraud. So we need to be careful about which roles can be on a specific job description and which should be segregated there. Or input then, as you're saying, an additional control, a surprise reconciliation, surprise check, some statement to be delivered to someone else, something else which could identify in case something happens.
Okay.
Yes, again, what Elena is saying, definitely, because I don't want to, you highlighted this, not every organization is as big as BOV, agreed. But even if we say a small family-run business, just to go on the other opposite side of things, right? You're hiring someone to do a job, correct? So why should all the family, if it's a family-run business, should know and should have access, sometimes even asking the bank to give them the proper access? I'm not saying that, again, they're doing something incorrect, but why should be giving access to this internet banking or mobile banking to all of those that are part of the family? You hired someone to do the transaction, so let's ensure that she has access, she's being paid or he's being paid for that, but does not mean because I own the company, I should give it to my wife, to my children, to my brothers, to my sister, because we own the company, right? That's not the proper way of governance, and you're increasing the risk of being defrauded or being scammed. Not just the internal fraud, not just the internal scam, let's just recall what the inspector said. Borderless crime. So even, and we mentioned this, Rachel, in the other podcast, nowadays with our mobile phones, we are literally carrying our wealth, carrying our everything with us. So not our own, even the company ones sometimes. So by reducing these excesses, by reducing excesses that are not required, right? By default, I call it, you are reducing the risk of being defrauded.
You earlier, Elena, mentioned good governance, good practice. Maybe you can shed light even what like international organizations, reputable ones, mention when it comes to audits.
Yes, well, in good practice concerning fraud, for example, there is this report, annual report of the Institute of the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. They are saying about having an audit committee, for example, some independent directors on the board to have some oversight. They are discussing about internal audit department, obviously, but it could be outsourced or insourced, and it could be not continuous, but on some frequency.
A contract basis,
Yes. Then another aspect is the whistleblowing act. The whistleblowing act is European Union, but it is also applied in Malta. And what the act is discussing is that you have the right to speak up, and there is no retaliation. If you see someone doing something you think is wrong, you can anonymously or by name point it out, and there is no retaliation afterwards. So they are protected, the whistleblowers. Now, I understand that, for example, a company can have a fraud policy, but it might sound bureaucratic, but having a piece of paper that says, in case, so this is, we cannot tolerate fraud, and in case you identify it, please report it this way or that way. So giving some, because it can't be that someone who sees fraud inside an organization says, hey, I saw fraud, do you know where I should report it? So it should be somewhere written, because it's difficult to go on an intranet site or in front of the whole company, if it's small, and say, guys, if you see fraud, come to me. It's like telling, I know in here there is fraud, so please come and speak to me. So I understand you can't market it this way, but you can market it with a policy, you can with training the supervisors or the ones that are doing the checks on why they are doing the checks, because why they are doing this control and why it is important. Because people sometimes say, I have to do this because internal audit told me I need to review this every day. No, you need to review this because just in case there is a mistake, shouldn't be fraud all the time, there is a mistake there, or you will catch it, and the organization is relying on you on this control. So this kind of training and communication could reduce again, or in case there is fraud, make it come to the surface.
Okay. Inspector, you obviously, earlier you spoke about fraud coming from external individuals. You also mentioned the word borderless. In this particular case, fraud is happening in your organization from someone within. How often do local companies turn to you and ask you to investigate?
In reality, I think it is very low when we are seeing that employers reporting his or her employees which have been caught stealing or taking something which are not authorized. But and this happens even throughout my observations and throughout the patterns which I am seeing. It's because of various factors and limitations. In due course, if like an employer will be reporting an employee, it will take too long to go to court as well, and to take the investigation, to go to court, to prosecute that person, and even it might affect sometimes even from their own words, which are saying that, listen, I will make a bad reputation about my company if I report them, and I think it's false, in my opinion. But everyone.
So you don't agree with that statement? That's what you're saying?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. It's not the truth. And I think that the employers prefer to, let's say, return what you have stolen, and then you will get fired rather to report and go throughout the whole process.
If they report, how would they help the police, you're saying?
Of course, they will help even with statistics, and we know the person who has made the wrong thing, or the wrongdoing, and even as every action, there is the consequence. If you make a wrongdoing, there is a consequence which you have to pay for, you know. And sometimes, and not sometimes, I'm literally focusing that employers prefer to get what they have been stolen, put away the employee, and then hire a new one.
Is that good practice, Elena, in your view?
No, it is definitely not a good practice, in my opinion. I understand that someone would feel uncomfortable saying I was fooled as a business owner and say it in public. but in my opinion, it is very demotivating for the rest of the organization, who will find out, obviously, what has happened and see that the person who did it remains unpunished. And also, even the person who spoke up or who identified it or who investigated internally this will be very demotivated if says that there's no added value in my job on what I'm doing, and it will give the wrong message for the future and give an opportunity to others to act the same way. So internally, I think it's a very wrong decision not to report and not to make it public.
Ryan.
Oh, definitely, I see it exactly. I agree totally with Elena in this regard, right? And this shows, I say, the tone from the top, right? People, you ask a question to inspector, maybe people have reputational risk in this regard, right? I see it exactly on the contrary, because if you are reporting internal fraud, that shows the leadership, that shows the zero tolerance that you give on such instances. And it may be a detriment to other employees in your organization that if I do this, I may end up in that way. Right, so if I'm just imagine I have a company, right, and I'm just noted that there were internal fraud and I just fire someone, let's be honest, it is very difficult to keep it really
Under wraps.
under wraps, because people speak, people may know, people may say, they say, okay, so fine, it's wrong, agreed. What happened? Okay, potentially he or she are working somewhere else, that again, we are just passing the risk to another company at the end of the day, right? And the main point that I say in this is that, okay, if I do it, what is the worst thing that may happen to me? Being fired, right? So if there's opportunity for a triangle that Elena mentioned, the worst thing that might happen to me is getting fired. And I may even get a higher pay in that organization where I'm going, because people may look at my organization, may say, okay, he was working here, she was working there, she's experienced, he's experienced, you know, so let's give it even a better job.
A better police conduct.
A better police conduct.
Yeah.
I mean, so you over here, we're discussing the risk of not reporting. And we're not just mentioning that, I think in the look of the people, in the look of the organization, in the look of the employees, may say, okay, it may took us a month, a year, 5 years to know that there's internal fraud happening. But once we note it, we set the record straight, we set the tone that those are not allowed in our organization, those should be reported, and at least it will be a detriment for others not to do. Yet again, always on a risk-based approach, Rachel, and this is something to keep on discussing. That is not something that you have a break of 1 hour and you are taking an hour and a half on a break. You know what I mean? We're speaking here on a much more weighted cases, internal fraud, which involves a lot of money at a certain time. It's being done on a period of time, not just on one day, right? It's not something that is even wrong, but it shows, I would say, the level of risk it entails. We're not here just that we want to fire people and take them to court and we give more things to do for the police. We're not saying this kind of here, but we're saying that the culture, the tone, right, it needs to be there. And let's be honest, you know,
Good governance, takes responsibility.
earlier said that we're people, we're humans, and unfortunately, people can do very good things, but even some bad things. So there's nothing wrong in being ashamed that we have noted an internal fraud and to have reported it. I myself, I see it as a positive thing.
Why is it so important? I mean, people might ask, you're doing a podcast with the police. I can understand, because the police is responsible for the rule of law of a country. But bank, why is it so important that you're telling the business people to check what's happening internally and to be aware of internal fraud? Why should the bank get into it?
First of all, we care about our customers, and our job is to safeguard our customers' assets. So most of their assets lie with us. So if there is fraud, the communication would be with the bank at a certain point. And if we are trying to manage our front line not to have fraud on the bank itself, the same way we are trying to manage and help our customers not to have fraud from their side, which will be done through our institution in the end.
Yes, and also we are here to prevent financial crime, because at the end of the day, this is internal fraud. It's also crime. It's one of the predicate offenses when it comes to AML and money laundering at the end of the day, because again, I keep on highlighting this because this is one of the tangible things happening in internal fraud. This fraud triangle highlights a part of money laundering at the end of the day, because the money I'm stealing Elena mentioned the way I'm living. Right, I might buy property from this, I might buy assets of that. This shows money laundering at the end of the day. Right, so being on
Then the bank is seeing how much.
Agreed. So
You have in your
being on the preventive side, that also preventing financial crime from happening with good governance, what Elena highlighted, with need to know what I have highlighted, with what the inspector highlighted. So we have every obligation to be able to educate, to create awareness, and not at least to reduce financial crime cases.
Before we conclude, I want 1 minute of advice from each one of you when it comes to the business community in relation to fraud. And I'll start with you, Clive.
Well, with regards the most typical scam that is being affected by the businesses, which I was referring in this before, the business email compromise, especially when there is changes of IBAN, changes of, let's say, putting authority or urgency on those frontliners, which continuously, every day, seeing these emails, they must stop, analyze it, and speak with others, so that there is, of course, there is urgency mentioned, but let's speak it rightfully. What was it? What is that urgency? You know what I mean? For. So I think that we need to stop and analyze what is being taking place. And of course, if there is the suspicious that there was a scam that took place, report it to police, of course, and even to the financial institutions, so that action will be necessarily taken accordingly.
Thank you, Inspector. Elena.
I would say transparency. So if you identify fraud, you report it, or you consult with someone who is specialized to tell you how to preserve the evidence and make sure that you have the evidence needed to report it officially. And I would say, and also trust, but up to a level, your staff and your employees. Like I was thinking, for example, trusting my son going out. Okay, I trust him every now and then. I might confirm where he was. So just to keep that trust at a certain level. So confirming that trust every now and then with some external help, advisory or a check would not harm either.
Ryan, I'm not going to ask you for your advice because we saw it, we heard it in the previous, but I'm going to ask you a direct question here. I sometimes get the feeling that when we're so giving all this awareness and all this education and all these messages to be aware of scams, be aware of your mobile, of your internet, sometimes one would say, maybe we should go back to a cash-based society rather than a cashless society. What should be your answer to that?
So it's definitely not right. Let's keep on evolving, let's keep on improving. And yet again, if we go there, that will have more issues for the police, more cases of more armed robberies, once again, more issues of people stealing from homes, once again, more cases. So crime evolves, right? And crime actually, by time, it's evolving on the type of environment we are living. So if we go back again, which I don't agree, right? Let's keep on improving. And there's a more, I would say, more benefits to this for sure. And we can mention a couple of benefits for sure. But if we go back, so if someone may think, okay, you know how good it was having €1,000 in my pocket when I'm abroad. I heard cases of people going with 1,000 cash abroad and they have been stolen, right? And ended up without no money at all. Similar that someone steal your card at the end of the day. The benefit of being digital is that I have a card with myself and the card on my phone. That's one of the benefits.
And you can stop it.
And I can stop it, right? So people may say, you know, before fraud was non-existent, but before we heard so many cases of people getting burglaries at homes from their offices, from their companies. So this is how it's doing. One most important point, Rachel, on this is let's get awareness. Let's educate ourselves. The same as we educate ourselves in making our assets, the tangible assets, I call them, the fixed assets, properties, etc., that we secure them even better. And we learned by time. And of course, and something that perhaps societies were taking a bit more challenging, it is in the unfortunate case of COVID. COVID accelerated this borderless that Inspector was speaking about. COVID accelerated in the financial means also to go even cashless, because of all the risks that it was involved. People enjoy doing this, right? Because it's easy, right? Let's just do a bit of some marketing for Bank of Valletta too once we're here. We are changing our ATMs. Nowadays, I don't know where my wallet really is because I'm totally cashless. So nowadays, you just can use your card from your phone in withdrawing money, right? Is it a benefit? Of course it is.
It's a comfort.
It's a comfort.
Yes, but are we increasing the risks?
Definitely, but it's the same way of increasing the risk in having a 1,000 euros in my pocket, because I can lose them, I can whatever it is. The most important thing, and that's why we're doing this, is that education, awareness, risks are well known. In this time and age where we are totally, let's make this event, I stop here. We're using our phones today. Can you go back and live your life without a phone today, and not without a phone, without internet on your phone?
Today, international organizations see it as a basic need.
Agreed. However, your internet on your phone is increasing your risk. But just live without it, and you can try if you can do it.
Also, I would say that there is more traceability with the phone and electronic payments. So you have a chance to recover the funds, while if there is cash, there is zero chance you recover.
The benefits.
Yes. Ryan Caruana and Elena Dourou from BOV, thank you very much for being with us. Inspector Clive Brimmer, thank you very much also from the police force to be with us during this podcast. For the benefit of the listeners who would like to get in touch with us and report something similar or want to get some information, please do not hesitate to contact us on the number 21312020. I repeat, 21312020. I can assure you all communication will be handled in the most respectful way and privately. May I remind you that for those who have maybe missed the first 2 episodes, you can easily find them on the Chamber website, on Spotify as well, on BOV social media, and I urge you to listen to them because there are some interesting stories and very good tips. Thank you for being with us, and stay tuned for the next one.